And we're starting things off with the triangular object. This is a piece of recent UFO footage, or UAP, I guess they're often referred to now. The clip was shared to TikTok and YouTube by TR3B. The footage was taken in the Isle of Wight in England. The camera person hurries outside and starts filming, obviously having seen the object before the camera started rolling. And when they point it up at the sky, we clearly see something. It's triangular with 3 bright glowing lights on each corner. It hovers in the sky, slowly rotating. According to the uploader, the object took off after the camera stopped rolling. It's definitely an intriguing piece of footage. I like how clear it is, but what do you all think? Was it just a drone, a hoax, or a genuine unidentified flying object? Let us know down below. And if you are enjoying this channel, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button? We got lots more coming your way. Number 9, the Nessie photos. The Loch Ness Monster's been talked about to death, and for a lot of folks it's almost become a bit of a joke at this point, but there was actually a considerable amount of Nessie activity this year. Back in August, a photographer by the name of Chai Kelly shared images of a serpentine-looking creature in the loch. She'd actually taken the pictures back in 2018, but hadn't shared them publicly until this year. Kelly and her husband had been having lunch at the Dord's Inn on the banks of the loch when they spotted something strange maneuvering through the water. It was about 200 meters off the shore, moving right to left at a steady clip. Kelly stated that at first she thought it may have been a pair of otters or a seal, but that it never came up for air. They never saw the thing's head, so that's pretty strange. Alright, we're not done with the Loch Ness Monster though. Like I said, lots of news about Nessie in 2023. Again, back in August, the Loch Ness Center, which I didn't know existed, and the Loch Ness Exploration Group, who I also didn't know were a thing, set out to conduct the largest hunt for the creature in over 50 years. Drones fitted with infrared cameras were flown over the loch, and hydrophones were used to detect any strange sounds from the murky depths. Hundreds of volunteers also watched from land, attempting to spot any unusual activity in the water. The Loch Ness general manager Paul Nixon talked about the big search, saying it was not just a PR stunt. He also stated that there had been some interesting findings presented to him recently, mostly from sonar contacts showing mysterious objects in the depths of the loch, one of which was, quote, the size of a transit van, which has yet to be explained. Next up on the list, we have the Orb, another piece of UAP footage, and not the last on the list. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of alien talk on here, so be prepared for that. The footage was released by the AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is an office within the US Secretary of Defense dedicated to unidentified flying objects, or UAPs. This clip is from about 8 months back during a Senate hearing. The video was recorded by an MQ-9 Reaper drone and shows what looks to be an orb flying through the air. It moves at a good clip, and it's very smooth too. The AARO has stated that they don't know what the object was, and that it is a genuine UAP, but they have seen others like it before. Pretty cool stuff. Once again, how do you all weigh in on this one? In at number 6, we have earthquake lights. On September 8th of 2023, a powerful earthquake of magnitude 6.8 struck Morocco. Several houses collapsed and other buildings were reported with structural damage. But where does the mystery part come in? Well, right before the chaos ensued, witnesses reported bright lights flashing in the sky. This isn't the first time lights like this have been reported though. This is a phenomenon known as earthquake lights, but experts still don't know exactly what causes them. So these lights, which appear as flashes or streaks in the sky, are thought to result from the Earth's crustal stress during tectonic plate movements. The theory is that rocks under immense pressure and friction release these electrical charges that then ionize in the air, creating the lights that we see. But again, that's just a theory, and while researchers have correlated these lights with seismic activity, not all earthquakes are accompanied by earthquake lights, and on rare occasions, they even occur independently. Next up on the list, we have the February UAP sightings. A lot of you probably remember this string of weird incidents, but for those who aren't familiar, the story here is that several mysterious high-altitude objects were shot down in February of 2023 over various airspaces. We had objects being spotted over Canada, United States, Latin America, China, and Eastern Europe. It started when several unidentified objects were shot down over Alaska, the Yukon, and Lake Huron. The general of NORAD, Glenn D. Van Herk, made a statement at the time saying the objects could be benign, but he wasn't 100% sure. And when asked if they could be of alien origin, he said he just wasn't ruling anything out. It really seems like the government and military, especially like over the course of this year, has just become more open about this stuff. The idea of extraterrestrial life existing, which is really interesting. Either way though, it seems like it's just being discussed more. It's not written off as total nonsense like it used to be more so in the past. Now, here's another interesting part about these cases. There were recovery attempts made. Unfortunately, the objects landed in areas that aren't all that accessible, so it may be pretty difficult to actually recover these objects, and till this point, we still don't know what they are, and I think the search has been given up entirely. But I mean, you know, they could have found something and then just not said what it is, you know? There's always the chance that that's the case. And at number 4, we have the UAP landing. This piece of footage was apparently recorded in a rural area of Colombia. So we see this nice landscape view of the rainforest, we see trees, we hear birds, that's all normal, but oh wait, what's that in the sky? It's definitely not a bird or any living animal, at least that we know of. There's no wings flapping, first off. Plus, that would be a massive sized bird if it was one. No, it looks to be an object of some kind. You realize it's not actually flying towards the camera, but slowly descending. We watch as it disappears into the tree line. So what could this object be? I'm not a drone expert, so if you are, correct me if I'm wrong. But if that were a drone, it would have to be pretty big, right? The object is far off in the distance, but we see it pretty clearly. If it is a drone, it's definitely not some kid's toy. Now, this next piece of footage was taken years ago, but it wasn't actually shared online until about 5 months back by Reddit user CuriousAD5774. They said the footage was taken by a friend of their father's out in the country in Ontario. In the clip, we see the guy pointing the camera towards the night sky, where we see an object with glowing lights floating there. At first I thought it was maybe just a satellite, but the guy says the object is just hovering in place. Kind of hard to tell because he's not holding the camera very steadily. Now, looking at this footage, it's also easy to think, you know, what we're seeing is just a drone, but let me read what the Redditor wrote along with the clip. Don't got much to say about this video other than when my dad originally sent it to me, I felt like it had to be a UFO. And there's nothing else that seemed to explain it. Canada is notorious for sightings, and I myself have seen a few. This was taken way before drones were being used regularly. I'd say this video is easily 10 years old. At our number 2 spot, we have the Colorado Bigfoot. I don't think I was going to get through a whole list of weird, mysterious footage without bringing up Bigfoot at least once. 2023 was a pretty quiet year for Bigfoot sightings, at least ones captured on camera. But this next clip really made the rounds. It was being shared everywhere. It was all over the news. Even Stephen Colbert did a bit on it. So a couple were on a train passing through southern Colorado when they spotted something hiking across the hills in the distance. It looked to be a large furry biped. You hear a lot of people talking in the clip, obviously shocked and confused by what they're looking at. The creature walks across the grass and then kind of like just squats down, watching the train as it passes. Now, I gotta say, for all the supposed Sasquatch footage I've seen, and I've seen a lot, this one is not the most convincing. This could easily be a prankster in a costume, but you know what? I'm entertained by the whole thing. You know, it looks hot. He had to go out there in that big furry suit. He's in the middle of nowhere, you know? I don't know, I commend him. I think that's a commitment to a joke. Finally though, we have the flying saucer. and I say flying saucer not just because I've exhausted pretty much every other way of saying UFO on this list, but also because this object really does look like your classic flying saucer. So the clip was taken by a pilot. They've already started filming before we actually see anything, so it looks as if they spotted something and then pulled their camera out hoping to see it again. Then they focus on one area of the sky, and we see this dot appear and then rapidly get larger, realizing that there's an object hurtling in the direction of the plane before whizzing by at an incredible speed. And slowing the clip down, the object clearly fits the description of that stereotypical alien spacecraft, the most commonly reported type. I really like this video because it's not often you see UFO footage taken in the air, actually getting to see the object pretty close up, just whizzing by at the same vantage point. Could the clip be fake? For sure, but it could be genuine too. It's really hard to say with stuff like this because it's not illogical to think that there could be extraterrestrial life out there.
Coming in at number 10 is Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. Martin Luther King Jr. was an American Baptist minister and activist, and one of the most prominent leaders in the civil rights movement from 1955. Now, he died on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee, as he was assassinated. Claims soon arose over suspect aspects of King's assassination and the controversial role of the alleged assassin, James Earl Ray. Although his guilty plea eliminated the possibility of a trial before a jury, within days Ray had recanted and claimed his confession was forced. Suspicions were further raised by the confirmation of illegal surveillance of King by the FBI and the CIA, and the FBI's attempt to prompt King to end his own life. In 1979, the United States House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded that there was a likelihood of conspiracy in the assassination of King and that Ray was a scapegoat. In 1999, a mixed-race jury at a Memphis civil suit reached an anonymous verdict that King was assassinated as a result of a conspiracy involving the U.S. government. After the verdict, Coretta King said, "There is abundant evidence of a major high-level conspiracy in the assassination of my husband." The jury found the mafia and various local, state, and federal government agencies were deeply involved in the assassination, and Mr. Ray was set up to take the blame. Number 9. Brittany Murphy's death. Actress Brittany Murphy was sick with pneumonia when she collapsed in the bathroom of her home. Firefighters attempted to resuscitate her before she was transported to the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but 2 hours after the initial 911 call, she died at the hospital from cardiac arrest. An autopsy determined that Brittany died of pneumonia exacerbated by anemia and multiple drug intoxication. The drugs, over-the-counter cold medicines, and prescription medications were all legal, but at elevated levels. Her husband, Simon Monjack, raised suspicions by initially refusing an autopsy to understand exactly what happened to his wife, but just 5 months later, Simon died in the same bedroom of eerily similar causes, pneumonia and anemia. He also had an elevated level of prescription drugs in his system. Many people believe that the home had toxic mold in it, and Brittany's mother dismissed this idea, as did the coroner, but she later became convinced toxic mold was the cause of the deaths while trying to sell the home. Brittany's father had a different theory, that she had her life ended by someone. I have a feeling that there was definitely a murder situation here. He told Good Morning America, "Yeah, it's poison, yes, I know that." The basis for this claim was the result of an independent toxicology report he had done on a sample of Brittany's hair. The report detailed the presence of 10 heavy metals in her hair, which the report claimed suggested the possibility of foul play. Her father later filed a suit against the Los Angeles coroner's office and the Los Angeles Police Department, hoping in vain to have his daughter's body re-examined and the case reopened. Number 8. Natalie Wood's death. On November 29, 1981, the actress and movie star Natalie Wood drowned while on a boating trip with her husband, Robert Wagner. Robert had reported Natalie missing after a night of drinking, and her body was found several hours later, floating face down in the water, wearing a flannel nightgown, down jacket, and socks. Now, at first, her death was ruled accidental, but the bruises on her body led law enforcement to consider foul play, with Robert as the prime suspect. The couple had an argument on the yacht before she went missing, a fact Robert initially denied, but Luna fully admitted to in his 2008 autobiography, further arousing suspicions in the fact that 4 hours had elapsed between the time Robert and Dennis Davrin, the captain, realized Natalie was missing and when they called the Coast Guard. Most concerning though were the statements that Lana Wood alleges the boat captain Dennis Davrin made to her on a drunken phone call. According to Lana, Dennis said that after the star couple quarreled, it appeared to him as though RJ, Robert Wagner, shoved her away and she went overboard. Dennis panicked and RJ said, "Leave her there, teach her a lesson." Lana added that Dennis didn't think Robert intended for her sister to drown, but he didn't run to her aid. Number 7. Joe Pitchler disappearance. In the late 90s and early 2000s, child and teen actor Joe Pitchler appeared in a series of small and supporting roles in a number of movies and TV shows, most notably as Brennan Newton in the Beethoven family film franchise. According to the Charlie Project, Joe spoke with a friend at about 4 a.m. on January 5, 2006 in his northeastern Washington hometown of Bremerton. A few weeks before his 19th birthday, he left his apartment untouched, unlocked, and with the lights on, and apparently took only his wallet and car keys before he disappeared without telling anyone where he might be going, apart from some poems that spoke to his depressing mindset. 4 days later, Joe's Toyota Corolla was located in Bremerton, and authorities suspected that Joe may have jumped to his death off a bridge over Port Madison Narrows, but no evidence of that nor his remains were ever recovered. Number 6. Brian Jones's death. Brian Jones was a musician, songwriter, and record producer. Around midnight on July 2, 1969, his body was discovered at the bottom of the swimming pool at his estate. He was pulled from the pool and had CPR performed on him, but was pronounced dead upon arriving at the hospital. Now, Brian's death came just 6 weeks after Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Charlie Watts informed him he was out of the band. Accounts of the night Brian died say that prior to him going for a swim, he had been drinking brandy and taking sleeping pills, and as a result was unsteady on his feet and his speech was garbled. An autopsy declared his death was due to drowning, later clarified as death by misadventure. His daughter, though, Barbara Marion, contends that her father may have had his life ended by someone on purpose and believes that his death was never properly investigated by the authorities. Rumors have alleged for years that Frank Thorogood, a builder who was working on Brian's house who was the last person to see him alive, may have ended his life after a dispute over money. Number 5. Marilyn Monroe's death. The world was shaken on August 5, 1962 when Marilyn Monroe was found dead at the age of 36 in her home in Los Angeles. The cause? A barbiturate overdose that was ruled as her most likely taking her own life. Now this led many to doubt the star, rumored to have been involved in extramarital affairs with both John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert F. Kennedy, had taken her own life. Instead, conspiracy theories have long suspected that Marilyn had her life ended by being forced to take the drugs that resulted in her death to keep her from talking about the Kennedy brothers. Now to this day, the CIA continues to maintain files on Marilyn's death, but it is unlikely anyone will ever know what really happened. Number 4. Death of the Black Dahlia. On January 15, 1947, Elizabeth Short, an aspiring actor, was found dead in residential Los Angeles. Her body was so mutilated as the body was cut in half and so pale and drained of blood that the woman who discovered it thought she had stumbled upon a mannequin. Now the body was cut with surgical precision, leaving no trauma to internal organs and bones. Her face was also cut from her mouth to ears, leaving an eerie permanent smile. There was no blood on the ground, making it believed that the body was moved after she had died. 9 days after she was discovered, an envelope was sent to the Examiner that read, "The Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers, here is Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow." Now as promised, the envelope contained her social security card, birth certificate, photographs, names written on pieces of paper, and an address book. Then on March 14th, a note was found saying, "To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but have not. I'm too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself for that or this. Sorry, Mary." Now although many suspects were named, no authorities were able to identify who ended the Black Dahlia's life. Number 3. Princess Diana's death. Princess Diana was constantly hounded by paparazzi, which resulted in her death. On August 31st, 1997, Diana was fatally injured in a car crash at the Point de Lama tunnel in Paris. She left the Ritz in Paris at around 12:20 a.m. and her car went into the tunnel, where the driver lost control and crashed into a pillar. Diana was critically injured but died later that morning in the hospital. Now because Diana was so loved and hated by the royals for being so loved, there's a conspiracy theory that the royal family planned for her to die. Now in the months immediately preceding her death, although she was attempting to live her life as normally as she could, even though she got divorced, Diana expressed fears that she would have her life ended ended, most likely by a staged car crash. The end came in a way similar to how she predicted it, but what we may never know is whether the crash was an accident, as subsequent investigations determined, or staged as she feared. Number 2. Shelley Miscavige disappearance. Shelley Miscavige is a member of the Church of Scientology Sea Org who married Scientology leader David Miscavige. She was last seen in public in August of 2007. Since her disappearance, she has been the subject of speculation and inquiries regarding her whereabouts and well-being. In 2012, attorneys who said they represented her responded by saying that she was merely living a private life devoted to the Church of Scientology. Some former Sea Org members have said that they believe Shelley is being held against her will at the compound of the Scientologist Church of Spiritual Technology Corporation near the mountain town of Running Springs in San Bernardino County, California. In August 2013, actress Leah Remini, a former Scientologist and critic of the organization, filed a missing persons report regarding Shelley with the Los Angeles Police Department, which was closed within hours by the LAPD as unfounded. So where is Shelley? It seems like we might never know. And coming in at number 1 is Elliott Smith's death. Elliott Smith was a musician and singer-songwriter. There was lots of controversy surrounding his death, as it was just strange. Elliott died on October 21st, 2003 from 2 stab wounds to the chest. He was at his apartment where he lived with his girlfriend, Jennifer Chiba. According to Jennifer, the two were arguing and she locked herself in the bathroom to take a shower. She heard him scream and upon opening the door saw Elliott standing with a knife in his chest. She pulled the knife out, after which he collapsed and she called 911. While his death was reported as him taking his own life, the official autopsy report released in December 2003 left open the question of homicide. The report said that he had been stabbed twice, both wounds had entered his chest cavity, and one had perforated his heart. That in itself is not suspicious. Gruesome as it sounds, people who choose to stab themselves to death frequently jab the weapon into their chest a number of times. Elliott, however, had no hesitation wounds, cuts made as the victim works up the nerve to force the weapon through, and he had stabbed himself through his clothing. The autopsy also found small lacerations on both of his hands and under his right arm, which it described as possible defensive wounds. Claimed that Jennifer reported removal of the knife from Elliott and subsequent refusal to speak with detectives were all of concern.
And we're starting off this list with encephalitis lethargica, also known as the sleeping sickness. This strange ailment swept across the world between 1917 and 1928, leaving medical professionals baffled and horrified. The epidemic affected millions of people with symptoms ranging from mild lethargy to severe cases of catatonia, where individuals would become completely motionless and unresponsive, almost like statues. The cause of the disease remained elusive as doctors struggled to find a definitive explanation for its origin and transmission. During the height of the epidemic, patients were observed in a trance-like state, often remaining immobile for weeks or even years. Some victims also experienced psychiatric symptoms such as hallucinations and delirium, and scientists had several theories including viral infections or exposure to toxins, but none could provide a definitive explanation. The epidemic gradually subsided by the late 1920s, with sporadic cases occurring afterward, and that might be the strangest thing about this one. It seemed to just flare up and then disappear. Next up, we have Overton Bridge. Fair warning, if you ever find yourself in Scotland with your pet dog, do not take it to this bridge. Dogs seem to really enjoy leaping off of it. Overton Bridge, located near Dumbarton in Scotland, has gained quite the reputation due to its mysterious phenomenon associated with it. For decades, the bridge has been the site of a large number of dog deaths. They just leap off the bridge, and as to why they do so, no one knows. The peculiar incidents date back to the 1950s, with over 50 dogs reportedly plunging from the same spot on the bridge. Even more strange is that dogs typically jump from the same side as well. Numerous theories have been proposed to try and explain the mystery surrounding the bridge. Some speculate that there may be an undetectable scent or maybe a sound that only dogs can hear that lures them to jump. Others have suggested supernatural or paranormal explanations, of course, but it still remains a mystery. Even after investigations, including studies by animal behaviorists and structural engineers. Number 8, the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. It's a very famous one. This has to be the most perplexing aviation mystery in recent history. On March 8th of 2014, the Boeing 777 with 239 passengers and crew members on board seemed to vanish without a trace. The flight was en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing when just a little under an hour after takeoff, it disappeared from radar screens, leaving behind no distress signals or communication indicating any issues on board. The search for Flight 370 started in the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea, which was when the captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah, last made contact with air traffic control before the plane disappeared from screens. It was soon discovered that the plane actually made a sharp turn, redirecting its route completely, flying for several hours before it would have eventually run out of fuel over the vast expanse of the southern Indian Ocean, where satellite data suggested the plane had likely gone down. Despite extensive efforts involving multiple countries and cutting-edge technology, though, no wreckage was initially found. Of course, a bunch of theories started being proposed. Possible mechanical failure, the captain deciding to take his own life, as well as the crew, conspiracy theories involving government cover-ups, even a UFO abduction. The disappearance of Flight 370 has left the families of the victims behind, desperate for some kind of closure and resolution. The Mary Celeste. Alright, we have a ghost ship on the list. It's December 4th, 1872. A ship is found floating in the Atlantic Ocean, completely empty. Empty of crew and passengers, that is. Everything else was intact. All the cargo remained, and there was no damage to the vessel. The only thing missing was a single lifeboat. The ship had set sail from New York 1 month prior, led by Captain Benjamin Briggs, along with his wife, daughter, and 7 other crew members. To this day, nobody knows how or why everyone went missing. Some speculated that the ship could have been attacked by pirates, but there was no sign of a struggle, and the last entry on the ship's daily log was completely ordinary. There were no signs that anything was amiss. It seemed as if everyone had just boarded the lifeboat and sailed off, never to be seen or heard from again. And at number 6, we have the deaths of the Jameson family. Bobby Dale Jameson, his wife Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison vanished without a trace while on a trip to the rugged terrain of the San Bois Mountains in Oklahoma. The family's truck was discovered abandoned, and inside were their personal belongings, including wallets, $32,000 in cash, IDs, and their dog, who was fortunately still alive. There was no sign of a struggle in the truck, although police did find an 11-page hate letter written by Sherilyn to her husband. There was also surveillance footage taken outside of the Jamesons' home showing them making a number of trips from their property to the truck back and forth. They seemed to be moving in an almost trance-like state. So there were just so many ways that this thing could have gone, and it was impossible for authorities to actually figure out exactly what happened. The search for the Jameson family spanned months and involved extensive resources, but no sign of them was found until 4 years later, when the skeletal remains of the family was found just 3 miles from where their truck had been discovered. Authorities were never able to determine the cause of death, as their bodies were too decomposed, and to this day the circumstances surrounding their deaths are all but a mystery. Number 5, the feet mystery. Sounds pretty innocuous, but it's actually pretty disturbing. Since 2007, the discovery of severed feet along the coastlines of British Columbia have been found and remains a perplexing and eerie phenomenon till this day. The first severed foot was discovered by a young girl, of all people, in August of 2007 on Jedediah Island, and since then a total of 21 feet have been found in various locations along the coast. Speculation and theories have arisen, ranging from accidents at sea, of course foul play. Authorities have stated that they ruled out foul play, though, proposing that the feet most likely belonged to people who either took their own lives or died in accidents, and that the feet simply separated from the natural decomposition process, and then because they were in shoes, they remained buoyant and somewhat preserved until they finally floated onto shore. Extensive investigations examining missing persons cases, forensic analysis, and DNA testing were done, but there have still been no definitive answers. Number 4, for the Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers. Located on a remote island off the coast of Scotland, this lighthouse was manned by 3 experienced keepers, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur. On December 15th, a passing ship noticed that the lighthouse's light was not shining. A relief vessel was sent to investigate, only to find the island deserted and the keepers nowhere to be found. The lighthouse's door was unlocked, and a meal lay unfinished on the table, as if the keepers had just vanished abruptly out of thin air. Strangely, the logbook contained weird entries from December 12th describing severe storms and the men's increasingly erratic behavior. One entry mentioned something unusual, but its meaning was never deciphered. Various theories have emerged to explain the Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers' disappearance. Some speculate that they were swept away in a storm, others suggest foul play, and of course, with any unexplained event like this, some think there could be a ghost in the mix. Until this day, though, no conclusive evidence or an explanation has ever been found. The mysterious deaths at Dyatlov Pass. In late January of 1959, a group of 10 hikers led by Igor Dyatlov set out on a challenging trek through the Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. Tragically, their expedition took a horrific turn, apparently. When the hikers failed to report back as planned, a search party was sent out. What they discovered at Dyatlov Pass was a scene of utter terror. The hikers' tent had been torn open from the inside. The group's belongings were left behind, and the search continued. The bodies of the hikers were found scattered in the surrounding area, some partially clothed and exhibiting horrifying injuries. Some victims had fractured skulls, crushed chest, or unexplained internal injuries, as if subjected to extreme force. Some theories point to an avalanche or severe weather conditions, while others suggest a possible attack of some kind. I think possible is a bit of an understatement there. They were obviously attacked by someone or something. Some people even think, maybe it was UFOs or a Yeti. However, none of these theories have ever been proven. The death of Mary Reeser. In the early morning hours of July 2nd in Petersburg, Florida, Mary's landlord arrived at her apartment with a telegraph, only to discover that the doorknob was hot to the touch. So she phoned the police. Firefighters arrived on the scene. However, what they discovered inside defied all logic and explanation. Amidst the charred remains of a chair the widow had been sitting on was Mary's body, which had been reduced to a pile of ash, with only a portion of her left foot remaining intact. There's a photo of that online, by the way, if you feel like Googling it. Pretty disturbing. The strangest part of the case was that the surrounding area, including the furniture, nearby objects, even a stack of newspapers, was just unscathed by the fire that had consumed her body completely. Forensic experts were utterly confused by the area of the fire's impact. It seemed to have solely targeted Mary Reeser's body, while sparing everything else in the room. Of course, theories and speculation began to spread, including the controversial concept of spontaneous human combustion, which I always smile when I say, because it reminds me of Spinal Tap, but it would be horrifying if it actually happened in real life, as it might have here. I don't know. This theory suggests that individuals can suddenly just burst into flames without an external ignition source. Pretty weird. Finally, though, we have one of my favorite UFO abduction accounts, the Travis Walton case. On November 5th, 1975, Travis and his crew of fellow loggers were working in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona. They claimed to witness strange lights in the sky as they were driving back from their work site, and as they got closer to the light, they spotted a large glowing object hovering above the trees. Curiosity got the better of them, and Travis got out of the truck and approached the craft. The other guys were pleading with him to come back to the truck, and then all of a sudden Travis was hit by a beam of light and seemingly lifted into the air. Panicked and frightened, the remaining loggers just fled the scene, leaving Travis behind. They soon decided, though, to turn back and retrieve him, but Travis was no longer there. They later reported the incident to local authorities, sparking, of course, a search for Travis, which lasted for 5 days. Astonishingly, Travis reappeared unharmed, but deeply traumatized, recounting a bizarre tale of abduction and encounters with extraterrestrial beings. Short, bald, black eyes, your classic kind of gray alien. Makes this case even more interesting, though, is the corroboration by Travis's fellow loggers. All of them confirmed witnessing the same strange craft and the beam of light that struck Travis. They even took lie detector tests that all came back saying they were telling the truth, or at least believed that they had seen what they had seen. Now, polygraph tests, they're not always 100% credible, but it is interesting that all of them came back positive.
Starting us off at number 10 is death by water. One of the fundamentals of human life is that we need water to survive. Not only that, we're made up of approximately 60% water. We sweat water, we clean ourselves with water, and essentially rely on it to get through the day. So what happens when someone is allergic to water? Well, their life becomes about 100 times more complicated. One of the biggest mysteries in the medical field is an extremely rare condition called aquatogenic urticaria, where the skin breaks out into extremely painful hives or rash anytime it's exposed to water. As of a 2013 medical review, only 37 cases have been reported since 1964, most of which were female, as well as most reporting the condition only arose during or right after puberty began. What's insane about this condition is that not only are the afflicted often allergic to rainwater, snow, fresh water, and seawater, but many are allergic to their own sweat and tears, and even worse is that some people get rashes or welts on their lips and mouth area from just trying to drink enough water to stay alive. While there are a few theories out there about what could cause this peculiar nightmare condition, the underlying cause has never been confirmed and continues to perplex the medical community to no end. Coming in at number 9, stone tears. When Chandi was 15, she woke one morning feeling like there was something stuck in her eye. To her surprise, when she went to go and look in the mirror, there was a small stone in her eye, appearing to be coming from her tear duct. Ever since that day in July of 2021, Chadney and her family say that the young girl has cried stones out of her eyes several times a day, every day, and no one has any clue why, or frankly how, this could be happening. Allegedly, in just the 2 months since the ordeal began, Chadney collected nearly 70 stones that had fallen out of her eyes. The family lives in a small rural village in India, and they don't have much money to send her to specialists, but have posted videos online to try and get help for their daughter. According to the doctors that weigh in, there is no known existing condition that could be associated with this, so it's definitely disturbing, especially considering that from what anyone can tell, nothing seems to be out of the ordinary in her actual eyes. Now, truth be told, there are some doctors out there who think it could be a hoax, but nothing has been confirmed, and honestly, no one really knows what is going on. Next up at number 8, the Iceman. You know how there are people out there who like to do a morning cold plunge? Well, one man, Wim Hof, nicknamed the Iceman, seems to have taken that to a whole new level. Born in the Netherlands in 1959, Hof is, as it seems, immune to freezing temperatures. At the age of 17, Hof said he had a sudden impulse to strip down and jump into a half-frozen canal, and it's not that he felt nothing, but he was able to withstand it for far longer than should have made any sense. This turned him into developing what he calls the Wim Hof method, which he says combines frequent exposure to cold paired with special breathing techniques along with yoga and meditation. In fact, Hof set the Guinness World Record for prolonged full-body contact with ice and for swimming under ice in 2000. Then in 2012, curious about if it really was all some breathing technique or if he was some kind of medical marvel, researchers in the Netherlands examined samples of Hof's blood and determined that he was somehow able to manipulate his immune system at will, essentially stopping his body from going into a stress response due to the temperature. Now, sure, does his deep breathing help regulate the body? Of course, but Hof would have you believe it's all in the technique. However, there have been several tragic deaths from people attempting his method and subsequently freezing themselves to death, so maybe there is a little more to the story. Coming in at number 7, a human chimera. Due to the nature of how lives are brought into this world, if there's one thing that is never up for debate, it's generally the biological mother of a person. However, one woman named Karen Keegan found herself in the most bizarre and baffling situation. In 2002, Karen was in need of a second kidney transplant after her first one failed, so she underwent genetic testing with her family to see if any of them would be a match and able to donate her. So imagine Karen and her doctor's surprise when the test suggested that genetically, while all her children were siblings, she was not the biological mother of 2 of the 3 children she brought into the world. Her doctor assumed this had to be a mistake, and so they tested once more, but strangely, the results were the same. As it turns out, Karen was a chimera, which is a person composed of 2 genetically distinct cellular lines. Essentially, it turns out that the DNA in her blood was different from the DNA in her ovaries, a phenomenon that her doctor hypothesized came from 2 eggs that were fertilized very early on and fused together when Karen was a fetus in her own mother. Okay, so maybe this one isn't a totally unsolved medical mystery, but you have to admit it's pretty wild. Next up at number 6, foreign accent syndrome. Imagine waking up one morning and suddenly talking in a completely different accent than you have your entire life. While some people might think that you're doing a bit, believe it or not, there is an actual mystery called foreign accent syndrome, or FAS, where the very thing can happen. Most famously was the case in 1941 when a Norwegian woman suffered a traumatic brain injury during an air raid and suddenly and uncontrollably began speaking with a strong German accent. But others include an American woman who suddenly spoke in a mixture of Australian, Irish, and British after a car accident, as well as an Australian woman who suddenly spoke with a French accent after going to sleep with a headache. For a while it was regarded as a psychological disorder, however it is now associated as more of a neurological one, usually onset by head trauma or a stroke. But the part that scientists have not been able to wrap their brains around is how on earth people can seemingly speak in an accent they have never been exposed to. When learning to speak, your natural accent is a result of sound patterns you unconsciously learn, otherwise known as the phonetic system. When you are young, accents can shift as you become exposed to new speech patterns, but by the time you reach your teen years, your phonetic system is pretty much locked in. But FAS somehow affects the entire patterning of your phonetic system and continues to perplex doctors all over the world. Next up at number 5, no appetite. Sometimes when you're feeling under the weather or on certain medication, it's not uncommon to find that your appetite has gone down. However, anyone who has ever met a teenager can attest that of all the people, they are usually the last to lose their appetite. But back in 2013, a 12-year-old named Landon Jones from Iowa baffled doctors after he suddenly woke up one morning feeling faint and with a horrible cough. His parents wasted no time immediately rushing him to the hospital, where it was discovered he had an infection in his left lung, and while the infection was promptly treated, the worst of it was yet to come. For whatever reason, ever since that day, Landon has never had any kind of appetite or thirst. The boy rapidly started losing weight, going from 104 pounds to just 68 right before his parents' eyes, all seemingly due to the fact that he never felt a hunger or thirst cue. As he continued losing weight, his parents were growing more and more worried about their son's strange condition. But no matter what doctor they took him to, they could never get an answer as to what was happening to him. Landon was given countless brain scans, psych evals, medical evals, and tested to make sure he didn't have an eating disorder, but nothing was providing them with an answer. Some doctors have wondered if he suffers from a brain dysfunction in the hypothalamus, the part that controls hunger and thirst, but his case remains unsolved. Next up at number 4, Syndrome X. When Brooke Greenberg was born in 1993, she weighed a mere 4 pounds and had a hip dislocation. Luckily, the hip issue was fixed through a surgery, and although 4 pounds is generally revered as small for a newborn, she was premature and nothing else seemed off, so from what doctors could see, she appeared to be perfectly healthy. However, things started becoming mysterious around the time she was 4 or 5 years old, as her parents and doctors noticed that Brooke appeared to have stopped growing. As the years went by, Brooke remained virtually unaged, a phenomenon that confused every single medical professional that her family seeked out. By the age of 20, she still looked the same as she had when she was 4 years old, measuring less than 3 feet tall and weighing only about 16 pounds. And it wasn't only her appearance that had stopped progressing. Brooke communicated as an infant would, giggling when happy, crying when sad, and continued to wear diapers. Interestingly, the only thing that continued to grow as normal were Brooke's hair and nails. The family took her to endless specialists over the years looking for answers to their daughter's condition, but each one was just as perplexed as the next. Some simply said not to worry and that she would catch up, while others prescribed growth hormones, but nothing ever seemed to help their daughter grow. Doctors were completely stumped by this poor girl's condition, calling it Syndrome X, and ever since her death at the age of 20 in 2013, specialists have yet to come up with an explanation. Coming in at number 3, eyes shut. When Natalie Adler was 17, she awoke one morning to find that her eyelids were mysteriously swollen. While this was definitely alarming to Natalie, she didn't initially think much of it. Maybe it was allergies or something along those lines. However, next thing she knew, the condition was only getting worse. Her eyes started to become so swollen that she eventually wasn't able to open them up at all. Even stranger was that it began developing into an inexplicable cycle where they would spasm shut for 3 days, and then they would open for 3 days, and it did that for 13 years. By the time she was 30, doctors were still at a loss for what was causing her rare condition. A condition that is so rare, in fact, that it doesn't even have a name. And even after hundreds of tests, they are no closer to understanding her condition. Over the years, Natalie has undergone several surgeries, none of which have proved successful, however said that she does get Botox injections to help keep her eyes partially open, although she continues to suffer from random bouts of blindness each month. Although doctors have yet to come any closer on how to cure her condition, she continues to see eye specialists, hoping that one day her medical mystery will be solved. Coming in at number 2, twins. There are lots of different kinds of perplexing conditions that have popped up in the medical world over the years, but one of the wildest has to be the story of Sanju Bhagat. Most of his life, Sanju had been incredibly self-conscious about his large stomach, which he described as once being so big he appeared to be 9 months pregnant. What's even more shocking is that for whatever reason, he never received any kind of medical attention for his protruding belly. That was until one day in 1999 when Sanju began to experience shortness of breath and was rushed to the hospital. When he got there, the doctors assumed Sanju had a large tumor in his abdomen and rushed him into the operating room to remove it. However, instead of an enormous tumor they expected, they could not believe their eyes when they opened him up and found the remains of a half-formed twin that had been living inside of him the last 36 years. The condition, called fetus in fetu, is incredibly rare, having only been documented 90 times in medical literature throughout history. As it turns out, when Sanju had been in the womb, his twin had become trapped inside and essentially became a parasite. Most that suffer this condition do not live long, often not even surviving inside their own mother, so doctors were completely flabbergasted and unable to explain how this man had lived 36 years with the twin inside of him. And last up today in our number 1 spot, no pain. While most of the time we try to avoid it since you know it hurts and it isn't fun, knowing that you are in pain is actually really important because it helps you keep from getting more hurt. Like when you burn your arm on the 400-degree oven rack and it hurts like hell, so you immediately move your arm away. Or maybe you break your ankle and it obviously hurts, so you stop walking, thus hopefully stopping you from making it even worse. So with that in mind, imagine a life where nothing was telling you you were in pain. Well, that's exactly what Gabby Gingras has had to deal with her whole life. Now 23, Gabby has never felt a semblance of pain her whole life. As a little one, her parents said she would chew her hands until they looked like raw meat, but would never cry, and it was then that they knew something was not right. Then a few years later, Gabby scratched herself blind in one eye and had to wear goggles to sleep until until she was old enough to understand her condition. As a kid, she routinely, unwittingly injured herself, once knocking out all of her teeth, another time getting second-degree burns from standing too close to a radiator, and even broke her own jaw but had no idea for several weeks. Even seemingly small things like weather conditions don't faze her. She has to be reminded to wear a coat in the winter so she doesn't get frostbite, or stand in the shade in the summer, as she's completely unaware of how to gauge temperature. Her condition is called hereditary sensory autonomic neuropathy, or HSAN, and while there is no cure, and the cause of the condition remains a big question mark to medical professionals, with proper support and learning from an intellectual perspective what can be dangerous, most people can thankfully live a totally normal life.
And we're gonna start off with a story posted by Reddit user Netcats1. They had become interested in the dark web mystery box trend and decided to give it a try themselves. They ended up regretting it. A box arrived on their doorstep. The box contained several envelopes. They opened the first envelope, revealing a collection of photographs capturing various destinations around the world. The thing is though, to their shock, they began to realize that the pictures were taken of places they had gone on vacation with their family. The following envelope held pictures of their house, meticulously capturing every angle, including glimpses of the interior through their windows. To their horror, the subsequent set of images portrayed the inside of their home, featuring family members engaged in everyday activities. However, the most disturbing photograph awaited in the final envelope, an unsettling selfie of a masked figure standing beside them sleeping in bed. Overwhelmed, countless questions flooded their mind and their anxiety escalated. Nevertheless, their curiosity persisted in compelling them to open the remaining small box. What they found inside nearly caused them to pass out. It was a collection of dog bones, recognizable by the collar as belonging to their beloved pet Charlie, who had passed away 3 years prior and was buried in the backyard. Is this story true? Probably not, but it's still a creepy story. Next up, we have a mystery box unboxing gone wrong. Mindseed TV, who makes a lot of these videos, shared a video on their YouTube channel of a rather disturbing unboxing. And apparently they ended up handing over all this stuff to the police, so if that's true, it's pretty scary. The box was sent to them unexpectedly, and the uploader believed it was sent by the same individual who he had purchased a mystery box from over a year prior. The stuff they pull out gets worse and worse as the video goes on. Starts getting real unsettling though when they pull out a pair of kids' shoes. Take a look at that. Yeah, not something you want to get in a box unless you're, intentionally buying them for your kid. They also received a case containing several surgical tools, a meat grinder, and most disturbingly, they unwrap a ceramic container shaped like a heart, and when they opened it up, they find what looks to be a set of human teeth. Yeah, pretty disturbing, if it's real anyway. At number 8, we have an unboxing from the YouTube channel Luxury Dark. Now, just for starters, I like these guys. Whether what they have in this box is real or not, or was sent by some mysterious person or not, the video is presented really well. I find with a lot of videos like this, it's very played up. It's a lot of overacting and just YouTubers being obnoxious, unlike me, of course. But these two seem genuine, which I like, and the stuff they pull out, pretty creepy. First of all, they state at the start of the video that the package was dropped off in their backyard by some guy in the middle of the night. Whoever it is doesn't look like a UPS worker or anything like that. Take a look. Word of advice, don't order anything from the dark web right to your home address. Just send it to like a post office, pick it up there. Anyway, they pull out a stuffed animal, some letters addressed to someone named Michelle. There was also a framed photo of a random family. Seemed like these were items that belonged to someone else, because it would be very strange for someone to send a picture of their own family to a stranger online, although there's all sorts of people in the world, so who knows. They also pulled out a bag of socks, underwear, and hair. Most disturbingly though, they found a USB with footage that looked to be taken from outside of somebody's window. Alright, let's move on to number 7. This next video is uploaded to YouTube by Kira Bridget, and she seems to have done more than one of these unboxings, and I don't get why, if they are real anyway. This one, really gross. First she pulls out a used tissue, and all I could think watching this was she needs to invest in more gloves. She said she was just out, but yeah, she really should have waited till she had some, because she picked this stuff up with her bare hands, and that's the most disturbing part of the whole thing. There's a good chance she just assembled this box herself. There's a chance that's the case for all these videos, but yeah, if this is indeed real, then hey, you know what? I think it was money well spent. Next on the list, we have an unboxing from YouTuber Infinite. Now, he opens a couple boxes in this video, one of which actually has some pretty cool stuff I would actually buy intentionally, but the first box he opens, again, if this is actually a package he got from some person online, it's pretty nasty. Again, he really should have been wearing gloves. Again, what's with these people not wearing gloves? I'd put a mask on too. Anyway, the first thing he pulls out, with his eyes closed mind you, which is another mistake, is a bag containing something. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks kind of like maybe a chicken breast to me with barbecue sauce, and even if that is what it is, it's still pretty gross to receive that in the mail. He proceeds to open the bag and give it a whiff. Third mistake, and even gets some of the mysterious juices on his fingers, which seems to be leaking from the bag. Ugh. At number 5, we have a video uploaded to YouTube by Jude Summers. Now, I'm pretty new to this dark web mystery box thing, and by that I mean I found out about this today, so I'm not sure if this is true, but he states at the start of the video that he hadn't seen anyone buy mystery boxes off the dark web before, so this could be the very first YouTuber to do it, or at least film themselves doing it anyway. There you go. We're watching history being made. Now, luckily, Jude starts off by putting on a pair of gloves, and it turns out he needed them because the first thing he pulled out of the box was a package of wet wipes with a note reading, "You might need this." So there's gonna be some icky stuff in this box. He proceeds to pull out a few pretty innocuous items, but by far the weirdest and grossest thing he received was a strange, foul-smelling something. Take a look. Looks kind of like a rotten mushroom, maybe? I don't know, but I would not have pulled it out of the bag at all. Again, he should have just been wearing a mask. That thing just looks nasty. Number 4. This next video is uploaded by Juggling the Jenkins. Love that name. It was the day before Halloween, so Tiffany's husband purchased some mystery boxes for her to open on camera, and she got some absolutely lovely new dolls, some animal skulls, and a small little bottle of holy water. Good call. I mainly put this one on here because she's hilarious, and whether the boxes were sent by some creep or just someone having a laugh, it's pretty clear that Tiffany is genuinely surprised about what she's finding, which is far more entertaining than people overacting and playing stuff up for the camera. She pulls out a really disgusting looking doll, and her reaction is priceless. Gotta say, I'd probably have a similar reaction. In one box, she pulls out several taxidermy type items, some animal bones, and what looks to be some sort of shriveled up hand. This next video is brought to us by the YouTube channel Fanatic. And if this is real, it's absolutely insane. I don't know, it's pretty far-fetched, but their reactions seem pretty genuine, so you be the judge. So these guys bought a package off the dark web, and inside of it was what looked to be a burlap sack, and inside that sack was another box. So yeah, as they said, it looks like an ammo box, but what was contained inside of it was completely unexpected. It had a bunch of wet paper towels, and under that was a bag containing this. Yeah, just a lungfish in a bag. Now again, this whole thing can definitely be fake, but just looking at the reactions, it seems like they're genuinely surprised here, so who knows? I mean, how stuff like this gets across any borders? I mean, don't they check the packages? But anyway, I mean, it's still cool to see a lungfish pulled out of a box like that. I don't know. I was entertained by this video. At number 2, we have a TikToker named Masked Red. Masked Red, who happens to actually wear a black mask, opens tons of mystery boxes apparently bought off the dark web. He's received all kinds of stuff: watches, a water bottle full of hot dogs. Some of it's pretty mundane, while other boxes have contained more sinister items. Phone containing mysterious pictures. Take a look at this. And this box containing this absolutely nightmarish doll. Yeah, I don't like the look of that thing. No eyes, no mouth. Dolls are the worst. I don't know. Anyone ever seen someone who like collects dolls? I don't get it. If these are real boxes he's buying with Bitcoin on the deep web, he's got some money to spend too, because he's uploaded tons of these videos. And finally though, at number 1, we have what I'm just gonna call Backpack. This video is once again uploaded by Mindseed TV and is pretty well known in the dark web mystery box community, I guess. The creepiest part of this video is when they pull out a child's backpack. Very unsettling. This is one of those videos I really hope isn't real, or at least that the person who sent the package is just trying to creep people out. But contained within the bag was a pair of child-sized shorts and a sweater. Now, as icky and weird as that is, what's interesting about this video is that this is the first package Mindseed TV received from this seller, who he believes sent the unexpected package a year later that we discussed earlier in the video at number 9. And again, you know, whether this stuff is real or not, it does make for a pretty spooky series of videos, so give them a watch if you're interested. And we're kicking off this list with pyramids. So a couple years back, satellite images revealed a mysterious triangular formation in Antarctica's desolate landscape. When the images hit social media, debates and speculations about the origin of this quote-unquote pyramid began. The pyramid shape appeared in satellite images of the Ellsworth mountain range located in the southern reaches of Antarctica. It seemed to have a striking resemblance to the dimensions of Egypt's iconic Great Pyramid of Giza, measuring 2 kilometers in each direction from its square base. And as these images circulated on social media platforms, the conspiracy theories began to flow. Now, scientists attribute these formations to natural processes and optical illusions, but perhaps there's a deeper secret being hidden from us in the cold, inhospitable terrain of Antarctica. Was there some ancient civilization that used to call the South Pole home? Did a group of beings from somewhere beyond our planet construct it? I don't know. I'm just here to ask the important questions. And now I'm here to tell you that if you are liking our channel so far, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button? We have awesome videos coming at you on the daily, plenty to see. Don't miss out. Do that right now. Next up, we have the ANITA discovery. The Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA, is a sophisticated scientific tool in the form of a high-tech balloon operated by NASA, floating above Antarctica. Its mission is to track subatomic particles generated by the interactions of high-energy neutrinos entering Earth's atmosphere from the depths of space. But a few years ago, ANITA made a strange discovery. It detected neutrinos seemingly originating from beneath the Earth's surface, quite the departure from its intended function of capturing spaceborne neutrinos. One of the more fun hypotheses behind this is that these detected particles may be signs of a possible parallel universe where the fundamental laws of our own universe might operate in complete reverse. Now, this is really just speculative, but it's a pretty fascinating idea. Scientists were pretty perplexed by these findings, and as of right now, there still isn't a definitive explanation. At number 8, we have the Ross Island haunting. Ross Island is not only home to the McMurdo Station, a hub for scientific research, it also harbors something much darker. It's rumored to be haunted. There was a tragic plane crash on the island in 1979, and this crash claimed the lives of 257 people. Over the years, visitors to Ross Island have reported unsettling occurrences describing ghostly footsteps echoing in the icy darkness and mysterious voices that seem to emanate from nowhere. Some claim to have come face to face with full-on apparitions, believing to be the restless spirits of the plane crash victims, wandering the frigid, snow-covered landscape for eternity. The haunting stories surrounding Ross Island have continued to be passed down through generations of Antarctic explorers and researchers. Number 7. The UFO crash landing. In 2018, an ex-Navy SEAL who had worked in the South Pole revealed some intriguing information to an investigative journalist named Linda Moulton Howe about an alien structure he once visited. He wished to remain anonymous as this information was highly classified. In August of 2003, this individual and his team had been tasked with a highly classified objective under the guise of a research reconnaissance mission. They arrived at their destination where they found a large dark structure protruding from the ice. There were doors on it, these big square slabs cut into the structure that when you push on kind of receded into the building, opening up into this long hallway. The inside of the structure was lit green by an unknown source, and adorning the walls were strange hieroglyphics. But they didn't resemble any hieroglyphics seen here on Earth. This is a pretty outlandish story. Impossible to prove, but hard to discredit completely because it's just hearsay, really, but it is fascinating. Plus, Antarctica is one of the most unpopulated places on Earth. It would be a good spot for little green men from space to operate without the presence of prying eyes. So let's stay on the topic of UFOs for a minute and discuss another possible UFO crash landing in Antarctica, this time spotted with satellite images. YouTube channel Secure Team 10 shared a video back in 2018 zooming close in on a small island just off the coast of Antarctica, which seemed to show a long, sharp mark in the snow as if something had crashed and then skidded along. Now, this island has the exact same environment as Antarctica. It seems to be a piece of it that broke off and floated away. So it's inhospitable, totally void of people. So what is this object? The narrator describes it as cigar-shaped, covered by mounds of snow. Whatever the object is, it's also very large, and the trail it left behind is almost 1,000 meters long. The trail behind this mysterious object leads to a mountain, and there's debris that seems to have been pushed out at the base. It looks like as if the object flew down and crashed into the mountain before skidding along the ice where it now sits. Part of me thinks there could have been an avalanche or something on the mountain, and maybe this is just a piece of rock that slid out extra far. I don't know. What do you all think, though? At number 5, we have Scott's Hut. Back to the haunted realm now. In 1911, 25 men led by Sir Robert Scott departed from this hut in Cape Evans on an expedition to the South Pole, an expedition they would never return from. The hut now stands just as it did all those years ago. There are belongings laying around, scientific equipment, even the frozen penguins the group had been studying remain on the outside of the hut. It's almost completely frozen in time. And as intriguing as it would be to give this place a visit, staff and visitors do claim to have an odd feeling when stepping inside it. There's a sadness about the place, an emptiness, a place that was so full of life, with daring explorers about to begin an epic journey, never to come back. Only maybe they did come back. It's no surprise that with an eerie history like that, some folks believe the hut to be haunted. Ghostly whispers, shadowy figures, a sense of not being alone. These are just some of the things guests have reported during their visits. Number 4, the giant hole. In 2017, researchers in Antarctica observed a massive polynya, a large area of open water within the sea ice, suddenly appearing. It was already massive, but things got even crazier when the polynya expanded at an unprecedented rate, increasing in size by more than 8 times within just a few weeks. The discovery was made in Weddell Sea, an area known for its harsh freezing conditions. Polynyas are not uncommon in Antarctica, but their sudden and substantial growth is a more rare occurrence that puzzled the researchers. These gaps in the ice are usually maintained by complex processes, ocean currents, temperature variations, but the rapid expansion of this particular one challenged existing scientific understanding. Researchers and climate experts were left with a series of questions. What was causing this rapid expansion? Was it related to climate climate change, natural variability, or some other unknown factor, and the scientific community set out to study this event with the use of satellite imagery, ocean sensors, and computer models. But the prevailing theory is that the Polenia was caused by intense cyclones. Alright, next let's talk about all the military presence in Antarctica. What's going on there? Let's start by going all the way back to World War II. There have been rumors for decades that Mr. H himself, the dictator of Germany, might have established a covert base in Antarctica. As for what they were doing there are lots of rumors, but the SS were super into mysticism and the occult, always in pursuit of ancient artifacts that they believed had powers that could aid in their conquest. Pretty wild, but maybe they were after something hidden somewhere in the frozen tundra. After the war in 1946 and 47, the US sent a huge fleet to Antarctica, and many believe that they had been tasked with destroying this secret German base. As for more contemporary military activities, who knows what's going on? Just imagine vast hidden research facilities buried beneath the ice, or cutting-edge technology being tested in the harshest conditions imaginable. Conspiracies suggest everything from advanced weaponry to secretive scientific experiments related to climate change or extraterrestrial phenomena. Who knows? And number 2 is Deception Island. Deception Island, nestled in the icy expanse of Antarctica, holds a chilling history that goes beyond its freezing temperatures. Once a bustling whalers station, remnants of this grim past still linger in the form of whale bones strewn across some of its beaches, a reminder of an industry that relentlessly hunted these beautiful creatures. When the Great Depression hit and oil prices plummeted, the whalers station was abandoned, only to be repurposed later as a British World War II base. Now today, visitors to Whalers Bay, a landing site on this island, have shared tales of their experiences. Some have reported witnessing eerie apparitions, strange orbs of light. Some have even claimed to hear disembodied voices echoing across the ice. In 2009, when the crew of the American TV show Destination Truth ventured to the bay, they captured unexplained bangs and the unsettling sight of a shadowy figure roaming among the decaying ruins. The crew even captured a thermal signature in a window and an SOS signal emanating from one of the abandoned shacks. But finally, we have the theory that Atlantis could have been located deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. According to Plato, Atlantis was this advanced civilization that mysteriously vanished overnight. Now, when we think of Atlantis, we usually picture it in the sunny Mediterranean, not, buried under all that ice down south. But here's the twist. Antarctica wasn't always an icy wasteland. Millions of years ago, it had forests and a much milder climate. So some folks propose that Atlantis could have existed in Antarctica before it froze over, or some other ancient civilization. They point to satellite images showing peculiar shapes under the ice, speculating that these could be remnants of the lost city. We already talked about a pyramid earlier. That could have something to do with it. Scientists, though, of course, remain skeptical. They've been studying Antarctica for years, haven't found any concrete evidence to support this idea, but it's fun to think about. Could that pyramid shape, again, possibly play into this? Who knows? And we're kicking off this list with pyramids. So a couple years back, satellite images revealed a mysterious triangular formation in Antarctica's desolate landscape. When the images hit social media, debates and speculations about the origin of this quote-unquote pyramid began. The pyramid shape appeared in satellite images of the Ellsworth mountain range located in the southern reaches of Antarctica. It seemed to have a striking resemblance to the dimensions of Egypt's iconic Great Pyramid of Giza, measuring 2 kilometers in each direction from its square base. And as these images circulated on social media platforms, the conspiracy theories began to flow. Now, scientists attribute these formations to natural processes and optical illusions, but perhaps there's a deeper secret being hidden from us in the cold, inhospitable terrain of Antarctica. Was there some ancient civilization that used to call the South Pole home? Did a group of beings from somewhere beyond our planet construct it? I don't know. I'm just here to ask the important questions. And now I'm here to tell you that if you are liking our channel so far, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button? We have awesome videos coming at you on the daily, plenty to see. Don't miss out. Do that right now. Next up, we have the ANITA discovery. The Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA, is a sophisticated scientific tool in the form of a high-tech balloon operated by NASA, floating above Antarctica. Its mission is to track subatomic particles generated by the interactions of high-energy neutrinos entering Earth's atmosphere from the depths of space. But a few years ago, ANITA made a strange discovery. It detected neutrinos seemingly originating from beneath the Earth's surface. Quite the departure from its intended function of capturing spaceborne neutrinos. One of the more fun hypotheses behind this is that these detected particles may be signs of a possible parallel universe where the fundamental laws of our own universe might operate in complete reverse. Now, this is really just speculative, but it's a pretty fascinating idea. Scientists were pretty perplexed by these findings, and as of right now, there still isn't a definitive explanation. At number 8, we have the Ross Island haunting. Ross Island is not only home to the McMurdo Station, a hub for scientific research, it also harbors something much darker. It's rumored to be haunted. There was a tragic plane crash on the island in 1979, and this crash claimed the lives of 257 people. Over the years, visitors to Ross Island have reported unsettling occurrences describing ghostly footsteps echoing in the icy darkness and mysterious voices that seem to emanate from nowhere. Some claim to have come face to face with full-on apparitions, believing to be the restless spirits of the plane crash victims, wandering the frigid snow-covered landscape for eternity. The haunting stories surrounding Ross Island have continued to be passed down through generations of Antarctic explorers and researchers. Number 7, the UFO crash landing. In 2018, an ex-Navy SEAL who had worked in the South Pole revealed some intriguing information to an investigative journalist named Linda Moulton Howe about an alien structure he once visited. He wished to remain anonymous as this information was highly classified. In August of 2003, this individual and his team had been tasked with a highly classified objective under the guise of a research reconnaissance mission. They arrived at their destination where they found a large dark structure protruding from the ice. There were doors on it, these big square slabs cut into the structure that when you push on kind of receded into the building, opening up into this long hallway. The inside of the structure was lit green by an unknown source, and adorning the walls were strange hieroglyphics. But they didn't resemble any hieroglyphics seen here on Earth. This is a pretty outlandish story. Impossible to prove, but hard to discredit completely because it's just hearsay, really, but it is fascinating. Plus, Antarctica is one of the most unpopulated places on Earth. It would be a good spot for little green men from space to operate without the presence of prying eyes. So let's stay on the topic of UFOs for a minute and discuss another possible UFO crash landing in Antarctica, this time spotted with satellite images. YouTube channel Secure Team 10 shared a video back in 2018 zooming close in on a small island just off the coast of Antarctica, which seemed to show a long, sharp mark in the snow as if something had crashed and then skidded along. Now, this island has the exact same environment as Antarctica. It seems to be a piece of it that broke off and floated away. So it's inhospitable, totally void of people. So what is this object? The narrator describes it as cigar-shaped, covered by mounds of snow. Whatever the object is, it's also very large, and the trail it left behind is almost 1,000 meters long. The trail behind this mysterious object leads to a mountain, and there's debris that seems to have been pushed out at the base. It looks like as if the object flew down and crashed into the mountain before skidding along the ice where it now sits. Part of me thinks there could have been an avalanche or something on the mountain, and maybe this is just a piece of rock that slid out extra far. I don't know. What do you all think, though? At number 5, we have Scott's Hut. Back to the haunted realm now. In 1911, 25 men led by Sir Robert Scott departed from this hut in Cape Evans on an expedition to the South Pole, an expedition they would never return from. The hut now stands just as it did all those years ago. There are belongings laying around, scientific equipment, equipment, even the frozen penguins the group had been studying remain on the outside of the hut. It's almost completely frozen in time. And as intriguing as it would be to give this place a visit, staff and visitors do claim to have an odd feeling when stepping inside it. There's a sadness about the place, an emptiness, a place that was so full of life, with daring explorers about to begin an epic journey, never to come back. Only maybe they did come back. It's no surprise that with an eerie history like that, some folks believe the hut to be haunted. Ghostly whispers, shadowy figures, a sense of not being alone. These are just some of the things guests have reported during their visits. Number 4, the giant hole. In 2017, researchers in Antarctica observed a massive polynya, a large area of open water within the sea ice, suddenly appearing. It was already massive, but things got even crazier when the polynya expanded at an unprecedented rate, increasing in size by more than 8 times within just a few weeks. The discovery was made in Weddell Sea, an area known for its harsh freezing conditions. Polynyas are not uncommon in Antarctica, but their sudden and substantial growth is a more rare occurrence. That puzzled the researchers. These gaps in the ice are usually maintained by complex processes, ocean currents, temperature variations, but the rapid expansion of this particular one challenged existing scientific understanding. Researchers and climate experts were left with a series of questions. What was causing this rapid expansion? Was it related to climate change, natural variability, or some other unknown factor? And the scientific community set out to study this event with the use of satellite imagery, ocean sensors, and computer models. But the prevailing theory is that the polynya was caused by intense cyclones. Alright, next let's talk about all the military presence in Antarctica. What's going on there? Let's start by going all the way back to World War II. There have been rumors for decades that Mr. H himself, the dictator of Germany, might have established a covert base in Antarctica. As for what they were doing there are lots of rumors, but the SS were super into mysticism and the occult, always in pursuit of ancient artifacts that they believed had powers that could aid in their conquest. Pretty wild, but maybe they were after something hidden somewhere in the frozen tundra. After the war in 1946 and 47, the US sent a huge fleet to Antarctica, and many believe that they had been tasked with destroying this secret German base. As for more contemporary military activities, who knows what's going on? Just imagine vast hidden research facilities buried beneath the ice, or cutting-edge technology being tested in the harshest conditions imaginable. Conspiracies suggest everything from advanced weaponry to secretive scientific experiments related to climate change or extraterrestrial phenomena. Who knows? And number 2 is Deception Island. Deception Island, nestled in the icy expanse of Antarctica, holds a chilling history that goes beyond its freezing temperatures. Once a bustling whalers station, remnants of this grim past still linger in the form of whale bones strewn across some of its beaches, a reminder of an industry that relentlessly hunted these beautiful creatures. When the Great Depression hit and oil prices plummeted, the whalers station was abandoned, only to be repurposed later as a British World War II base. Now today, visitors to Whalers Bay, a landing site on this island, have shared tales of their experiences. Some have reported witnessing eerie apparitions, strange orbs of light. Some have even claimed to hear disembodied voices echoing across the ice. In 2009, when the crew of the American TV show Destination Truth ventured to the bay, they captured unexplained bangs and the unsettling sight of a shadowy figure roaming among the decaying ruins. The crew even captured a thermal signature in a window and an SOS signal emanating from one of the abandoned shacks. But finally, we have the theory that Atlantis could have been located deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. According to Plato, Atlantis was this advanced civilization that mysteriously vanished overnight. Now, when we think of Atlantis, we usually picture it in the sunny Mediterranean, not, buried under all that ice down south. But here's the twist. Antarctica wasn't always an icy wasteland. Millions of years ago, it had forests and a much milder climate. So some folks propose that Atlantis could have existed in Antarctica before it froze over, or some other ancient civilization. They point to satellite images showing peculiar shapes under the ice, speculating that these could be remnants of the lost city. We already talked about a pyramid earlier, that could have something to do with it. Scientists, though, of course, remain skeptical. They've been studying Antarctica for years, haven't found any concrete evidence to support this idea, but it's fun to think about. Could that pyramid shape, again, possibly play into this? Who knows?